It was a long time ago when I met Sally. We were part of a circle. We were young people, all or many of us racialized.
Driving across the border.
Oh, yeah.
And that, into the US, and Cameron would always wear a suit or a suit jacket or, look really nice. And, and we're like, what's up with that, Cameron?
To me, an ally is someone who gets you, who understands what you are going through, who is willing to listen.
And then Cameron just saying, you know what, it's different for me to do a border crossing. I remember that, and I've felt that over the years.
In choosing Sally for my ally is that we were both from immigrant, racialized backgrounds. That allyship was especially important because we had a lot in common, but we had to learn about each other's experiences as well in order to build those bridges. And the winner of the 2022 People's Choice Award at the Toronto Film Festival. I'm Cameron Bailey. I'm the CEO of TIFF, which puts on the Toronto International Film Festival. It was a long time ago when I met Sally. We were kids, really. I was just graduated from university. I was writing about film for a weekly in Toronto called Now, and Sally was still in university. We were part of a circle. We were young people, all or many of us racialized people. We didn't even have that word racialized back then. That's how long ago it was, in the early 1990s. But we were from immigrant families. We were all interested in the arts, and we were in downtown Toronto at a time when things were changing. And we really felt like we wanted to make change, we needed to make change, and we needed each other to do that. And that allyship was especially important because we had a lot in common, but we had to learn about each other's experiences as well in order to build those bridges.
I'm Sally Lee, and I am the Executive Director of the Canadian Independent Screen Fund for Black and People of Color creators. My background has always been in supporting individual artists, particularly artists from Black and racialized communities, Indigenous as well. I don't think I remember the exact moment, but I can remember young Cameron, totally this very self-possessed, poised, gentle guy, sharp-dressed. The personal connection, it came very naturally. A lot of it is just around having chemistry and over the years building up a lot of trust, having common interests and values.
There was a way that Sally and I could communicate. We would go out for dinner. We both love to go out for dinner. So part of it was just long conversations over meals and a glass of wine and talking about what we were going through. It just felt like we could share our thoughts, we could share our frustrations, we could talk through things. I was in the media as a film critic writing about film, but it wasn't until, I'd say, the last 15 years that I've held what I call institutional power. And when you first go into those institutional spaces, there's a lot to navigate. How do you actually hold yourself in a meeting? How do you navigate unspoken barriers? People won't tell you that they're trying to block what you want to accomplish, but they are nevertheless blocking what you want to accomplish. And Sally was able to help me figure out those things. She has a very strong sense of human dynamics. She's very empathetic and understands, what motivates people and what might drive them. And so by talking some of these things through with her, I was able to understand that. I started a program at the Toronto Film Festival in 1995 called Planet Africa, which was a series of films every year at the festival from the African continent and the African diaspora together.
What's up?
That was not universally embraced, when I came forward with that idea. And people would never say, we don't want to do it because it's African. There would be other reasons, structural reasons why it was impossible to do, or it would be very challenging, or maybe you just want to do it once and then we can move on. And so in talking with Sally and others, I was able to understand the importance of something like Planet Africa and why things that were presented as not being about race may well have been a little bit about race.
The ironic thing about the whole Planet Africa thing is that it actually became the hot ticket.
Yes.
It's interesting, the notion of allyship as the person who's your ally, you think, oh, that there's like a powerful person who's bringing something into the mix. But as much as it is allyship, it's solidarity, I'd say, which implies more of a equal footing.
Today in Canada, there are far more young creators who are Black, Asian, Indigenous, Arab, all of the different identities and communities that were much more marginalized when we were coming up. So there's more of them, and I think one of the things that I see people doing more is just finding commonality among those communities, which is great. At the same time, I think it still is valuable for people to cross those borders and build bridges and create alliances and find allies, in a different community where you have some things in common or common goals, but you're not necessarily coming from exactly the same place.
I do think that lumping everyone into this racialized bucket does a bit of a disservice in terms of the very specific ways in which different communities experience racism. So allyship in that sense is so important among creators, where the kinds of barriers a young Black filmmaker is going to face is going to have like a different flavor or a qualitative difference than a young Asian filmmaker.
I don't know how you get through life without having allies. It's so important, and you can define them whatever way you like, but someone who gets you, someone whom you can trust and who trusts you, and with whom you can share the things you're going through, especially the difficult things.
There is that feeling of exhaling or putting your feet up or taking your bra off, like when we sit and we can just talk and just be really honest about our take on things that we've experienced.
Allyship, I think, really, it requires effort, right? Because you're not the same. You're trying to find that shared area, but it doesn't happen automatically. You have to kind of work towards moving it. That's, I think, the definition of what it means to be an ally.
It just means so much to know that somebody else is in your corner unconditionally, they get it. But also that there's a lot of trust there, and they're going to be able to, you can hold each other to account.
I think there's been for so many years such trust between
Trust is
me
huge, yeah.
and Sally, and part of that comes from, we, like I said, we come from similar backgrounds, but not in any way the same. But we both came here to Canada as children. We both experienced what it was like to be marginalized, to live on the outside. And we're now in a situation where we're not at the margins anymore, Sally leads the Canadian Independent Screen Fund, I'm leading TIFF. And I think that path from living on the margins and feeling marginalized to actually taking leadership positions within culture is something that we share, and we've learned and helped each other along the way because there is so much trust. Being the CEO of TIFF is a great job. What can I say? I lucked out. I get to see movies and welcome filmmakers to Toronto every year. We can afford fancier dinners now. But a lot's the same, we've gone through a lot together, Sally and I, and we've shared a lot, and we've, I think, come to the point where I know, and I may even have said this to you at some point, that I can trust Sally for anything. If I was in a really bad position, if I lost everything, Sally's one of the very few people in the world that I would turn to. We've been through enough to make that possible.
Yeah, the feeling is mutual, yeah.